Hi everyone, Gerry Dulac along with Ray Fittipaldo in Cleveland. It was a snowy night, but it wasn't a good one for the Steelers after those impressive victories against the Washington Commanders and Baltimore Ravens. Man, they let one get away, and they gave one away, losing to the Cleveland Browns. Our Steeler Report brought to you by Savinas, Kane, and Gallucci, mesothelioma and asbestos lawyers with 85 years of experience. Call them for a free consultation. And Ray, as we stand here on the field, you can see what a mess it was. It was amazing that it kind of ended the way it did. Steelers battled back from an 18-6 deficit in the fourth quarter. Looked like they might win the game when Russell Wilson threw the touchdown to Calvin Austin III. But they let the Browns make some plays there at the end, and Nick Chubb scored on a 2-yard run. 57 seconds to go. Steelers lose again in Cleveland. They're 1-5-1 in their last 7 games here.
And Gerry, this is the second game of the season where the Steelers defense had a chance to close out the game. Similar situation to the Cowboys game. We all know what the Cowboys record is. The Browns aren't much better. And it feels like 2 games that are going to hurt them in the seeding when it comes time for the playoffs. So I know there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on the call on 3rd and 6 to let Justin Fields throw that, but defense had a chance to make a stop, and they didn't do it.
Yeah, Ray, and after the way they played last week against the Baltimore Ravens with that defense, Steeler defense shutting down that Ravens offense, holding them to their fewest points, fewest yards, fewest first downs of the season. They let Jameis Winston make too many big plays. He didn't have great statistics, but at one point, Ray, he completed 11 straight passes against them. Jerry Jeudy caught some big passes down the stretch. Yeah. They had some drops. The Steelers were lucky. David and Njoku dropped one. They had one down here.
Akins dropped one,
Yeah, and if he catches that, he runs the rest of the way for a sure touchdown. So they were kind of fortunate, but they just didn't make those plays. Nick Herbig making the big play that allowed them to score that, what we thought was the winning touchdown, the go-ahead touchdown. But they didn't shut him down at the end when it mattered.
That was it, Jerry. Do you remember another pressure throughout the game? I mean, there were some times where the pocket collapsed and Jameis Winston was a little bit slippery and he made some plays, but there was just no the pressure just wasn't generated as much as it needed to be in this game. And like you said, Winston made the plays he had to.
Ray, the Browns had allowed a season-high 46 sacks. They were down to their fourth left tackle because of injuries. And the Steelers, you're right, they had very little pressure. That was the only sack that they got. Well, they did have another pressure on that controversial, well, I don't want to say controversial, but that strange play in which the Steelers weren't sure what the penalty was on intentional grounding or illegal touching, and that was, I think Patrick Queen had the pressure on that, and that's why Jameis Winston had to dump it off real quick. Other than that, against that offensive line and the sacks that they've allowed all year, the Steelers just aren't getting enough pressure from their front people.
No, and listen, the footing probably had something to do with it today, but it's been a season-long issue for them. You know, T.J. Watt has stepped up in some situations. He is one of the league leaders with 7.5 sacks. Herbig's been there at times too. Hayward a little bit, but other than that, Jerry, it just hasn't been constant like we've seen in previous seasons from the Steelers.
Yeah, Ray, it really was an impressive performance by Russell Wilson considering these weather conditions. 3 big chunk plays. Again, he was 21 a chunk, 28 for 270 yards, no interceptions, and a perfect throw to Calvin Austin on the touchdown. And Ray, that pass came 2 plays after he missed George Pickens wide open in the end. Well, it wasn't wide open, but all he had to do was lead him. I don't know if the wind caught it or whatever the case may be. It was a bad misfire, and that's a rarity for Russell Wilson. But it was a strong performance considering these circumstances and bringing them back in this weather.
Yeah, I thought maybe one big mistake, taking the 8-yard sack on the first drive, knocked them not out of field goal range, but forced them to miss a field goal. But after that, he kind of got into a rhythm. I didn't think the pass protection was great, so he kind of, made some things on his own there. And he stepped up again in the fourth quarter. He did it in Washington. He did it again tonight. And I think he deserved to be in that game on 3rd and 6. Justin Fields shouldn't have thrown that pass.
I don't think there's any question, Ray. And Russell Wilson took the first down snap. Justin Fields came in, and I think he lost 2 yards on second down, and maybe gained 2 or so. Or no, he handed off, I think, to Najee Harris.
Right.
But then you're right. It was 3rd and 6, and he threw that deep incompletion down the field. At that point in time, Russell Wilson needed to be back in the game. And Ray, I'm all for them using Justin Fields. Let's face it, the touchdown that cut it to 18-13, he jump-started that with that 30-yard run around the right end, and that's what he does. But sometimes you got to be careful about using him too much, and I actually thought they used him 1 or 2 plays too much tonight, including that third down incompletion.
Yeah, an interesting little side note on that 30-yard run. Justin Fields felt like he should have scored. He said he was a little bit stiff coming in from the sidelines, didn't have his wheels going. He was upset he didn't score on that 30-yard run. But you're right, Gerry. I think it's good to use a mix of your quarterbacks, but the timing just seemed off with Arthur Smith today, when to use it, when not to use it. I think it came back to bite him.
Ray, one thing we did see tonight again, was we saw Pat Freiermuth get more involved.
Yeah.
A number of catches, big catches for them. We saw them target Darnell Washington again early in the game.
Yeah.
But Pat Freiermuth has been underutilized these last 4 games. Darnell Washington has actually had more targets than him these past 4 games, but it was at least good to see him get back involved in the pass game.
And we finally saw it over the middle, right? He ran a slant over the middle for his first 22-yard gain. Washington had one over the middle too. So, they need that. You can't just survive on deep balls with Russell Wilson. I think that's probably too much of their offense at this point. And Gerry, I think Arthur Smith's going to come under some scrutiny. It took them, they went 7 quarters without scoring a touchdown until that fourth quarter flurry there. So it hasn't been a good 2 weeks for him. Wasn't really great a lot of the times against the Commanders either. They stepped up and made some plays there. I think the offense and Arthur Smith, they got a few things to figure out.
Yeah, and Ray, you were mentioning the sacks before. After Russell Wilson was sacked 4 times in the first half against Baltimore, he was sacked 3 more times in the first half tonight, and that's one of the reasons why they kind of got behind 10-3 at halftime. And when they were down 18-3, Ray, I thought if they come back and win this game, boy, that really shows a lot of character. And it looked like they were going to do it until that last series. But once again, Mike Tomlin, kind of blames some of it on a slow start. It's not that slow, Ray. They got the opening kickoff, and they went down and they attempted a field goal. They at least had some movement. Chris Boswell missed for only the second time this season from 58 yards, and the next time they had a chance to go from 54 yards on 4th and 2. He went for it. He didn't send his kicker back out there.
Steelers had a bunch of big plays in this game, but I think too often they got bogged down first down runs for 1 yard, minus 2 yards. A lot of stuff behind the line of scrimmage. Russell Wilson said it afterward. When we get those big explosive plays, we got to score touchdowns, and they didn't do that.
Ray, the Browns were the second lowest scoring team in the league. They were tied for the worst record in the league. We know their history of this franchise since coming back in '99. Only 4 winning seasons, only 1 playoff win. But man, they seem to have a hex over the Steelers here in Cleveland. As I mentioned, 1-5-1 in the last 7 games. But this was a key loss because of the way the Steelers had positioned themselves in the AFC playoff picture. Yeah,
it's almost like you gave one back, right?
No question.
The Baltimore Ravens, now they just opened the door for the Ravens to get back in it. And, the Steelers are going to have to work down the stretch. Another tough road division game at Cincinnati after Thanksgiving. So the Steelers made it more difficult on themselves, that's for sure.
Well, the snow has finally stopped. It was like a snow globe here for most of the second half of this game. I know it looked good watching it on television, but I'm sure it wasn't a whole lot of fun for the players out there. For Ray Fittipaldo, I'm Gerry Dulac. You've been watching Post-Gazette.com.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.